and welcome to the regular meeting of the Recreation and Parks Commission. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Lee. Roll call, please, Jackie.
Commissioner Stolnick,
Present.
Commissioner Farfan,
Present.
Commissioner Lubes,
Present.
Vice Chair Davis,
Present.
and Chairperson Moda.
I'm here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Presentations, there are none. Public communications related to commission business only, and that is within the subject matter under the jurisdiction of the commission. Anyone? Okay. Thank you. We'll close public communications. Consent calendar. Approval of the minutes of the Recreation and Parks Commission regular meeting of December 19th, 2018. Anyone?
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's 5-0. There's no unfinished business. New business. Consideration and possible action to accept a $75,000 donation from the Los Angeles Kings for hockey rink improvements and approve the request to install branding decals in various locations on the renovated hockey rink. Recommendations from staff: accept the $75,000 donation from the Los Angeles Kings, to approve the branding request from the Los Angeles Kings, or 3, alternatively, discuss and take other action related to this item. Meredith.
Yes, thank you very much. Good evening. As your report states, I'll give you a sort of a brief history of this project. About 2 years ago, all the way back in actually fiscal year 16-17, we had allocated some funding towards some improvements at the hockey rink. And moving through with Public Works, various engineers over the course of a couple of years have really tried to narrow down what the scope of the project would be. In 17-18, $80,000 was allocated to the project, and quickly have learned, working with engineer Orlando Rodriguez, who's here in the audience tonight, that funding amount won't get us very far in terms of what's needed at the hockey rink. The hockey rink is fairly old. It's in its sort of original condition, and as we've gone through the many years, we've sort of piecemealed any sort of improvements. So dasher boards have cracked over the years, and our in-house maintenance staff has actually installed dasher board by dasher board as needed. And each dasher board is about $600 or $700 that we have to order, get it shipped out and repaired, like I said, kind of like a Band-Aid. So we're happy to have this project finally funded. Unfortunately, it's not enough funding. And so we're really trying to fine-tune the scope of the project and fine-tune the project budget and the estimate for those improvements. Now, in that, we've been working with El Segundo Inline Hockey Association, and they've helped us identify what their priorities are in terms of improvements, and that includes fencing, surface repairs. We have a moisture issue on the south side of the rink. Still to be determined, to be honest, what's causing that. So there's some investigation that still needs to occur on what is happening. The engineers have some ideas, but really still to be determined. And so there's a lot of unknowns still. But we think we've dialed down the project budget to be about $150,000. And in those discussions, we also reached out to the Los Angeles Kings, and they were gracious enough to come out, take a look at the site, and offer a partnership opportunity for us in terms of funding, helping to fund this project. And what they've offered to the city is a $75,000 donation. They will prefer to pay it in 3 installments, and our finance department is okay with that. But basically bringing the project budget to $150,000 to $155,000. And in those conversations, they've been very helpful in identifying some potential vendors, manufacturers of some of the dasher board equipment. They have partnered with other cities, such as the city of Burbank, or the Burbank roller hockey rink up in Burbank. And so we feel that with the Los Angeles Kings here in our backyard in El Segundo, that it's a good partnership to definitely explore. And in more of our conversations, the conversation turned to what would the Los Angeles Kings get out of this? And they've asked for some branding at the rink. And so in your packet, you've seen some visual renderings of the brands, which you're probably familiar with. The LA Kings logo, the Go Kings Go type, and the various locations of where they think is the best looking and best for this particular venue. Chris Crotty also is here this evening, and he is from the Los Angeles Kings. Again, I said Orlando's here from Public Works Department. We also have representatives from the El Segundo Inline Hockey Association who are happy to weigh in on it. We did have a meeting, all three parties, last week, and discussed the project, discussed some of the timing, and also the branding, and also the usage. And while Los Angeles Kings is part of this donation, and this agreement doesn't necessarily obligate the city to provide any rink time to the Los Angeles Kings, they have definitely expressed interest in partnering potentially in some future programs, or maybe it's a venue for a championship game of some sort. So with that, I'm sure there's plenty of questions, and I'll turn it over to the commission, and as you wish, feel free to call anybody up here tonight.
Okay. Questions from anyone? Did you want to hear anything from any of the parties?
I had a couple of questions. I know when my son played in the inline hockey league for several years, every season we always had a problem with games being rained out. And he also played down in Torrance, and Torrance has, you know, the roof. Has the city, and I know it is a huge expense, has the city ever looked into putting a roof over the rink? Because that would really help out with the season and being able to get more games in, and not being, you know, rained out so much. And I don't know if it would help with the moisture issue, or if the moisture issue is coming from the hillside or coming from underneath. But I know that the moisture is a huge problem there, and the rain is a problem. So that's one question. My other question is, and I have heard from a few of the parents that maybe there is a concern that is there going to be, with the Kings coming in at a $75,000 donation, is there going to be a joint use along with the branding? Or is it just going to be a branding, or is there going to be a joint use agreement, and eventually is the inline hockey going to be squeezed out somehow? That's a concern of parents.
Sure.
And that would be a concern of mine as well.
Okay. I can definitely address those. As far as the roof over the rink, we haven't seriously explored it. It's definitely been an item that we know that the league is interested in, and it's always on their wish list of improvements. We haven't seriously considered it at that location, primarily due to cost. And I can tell you that the Campus El Segundo shade structures that we're working on right now are going to be upwards of $125,000, $150,000 just for 4 sidelines of awning. So I don't know how much a roof would be to construct, but it's definitely something that we can put on our capital improvement needs and sort of see it through the ranking process with all of the other projects as maybe another phase to the project. We have talked a little bit about the need to phase in even these top 4 priorities depending on how far this budget can take us. But I think it's something to look into, but it's not something we've seriously explored at this point. And the moisture, I think, does primarily come from, like, the moisture issue on the surfacing does primarily come from either the hillside or underneath the slab there. As far as the usage, definitely the same concerns of the El Segundo Hockey League. that they've shared with us and that we have as well. But I don't think it's something, as far as this agreement goes, we will be writing up a donation agreement. It has to be approved by City Council. Will be written by our city attorney and signed off by the Los Angeles Kings attorney as well. But our donation or sponsorship packages are simply funding for branding or signage or advertising, and that's the extent of what's being quote unquote promised under the agreement on both sides. You know, we can definitely get a better sense of what type of programs LA Kings are looking at doing at the rink, but by no means does this funding promise anything. And we would basically schedule the rink just as we do any of our other sports fields based on our policies of our existing users and our youth sports council members.
Okay, because I mean, there are big issues going on with the aquatic center now, you know, and with the local swim teams and who's going to get in there and all of that. And I would hate for that to happen at the park and the local rink.
Yeah,
So-
and under the agreement, we, the city, and the department really wouldn't have the authority to make that determination on exchanging use for money for a donation.
Okay.
Okay, that answered one of my questions. Anyone else?
Julie mentioned that there's a possibility that there be additional programs and the inline hockey would get pushed out. Isn't that still the main group that uses it? And what other things? I can't imagine them being pushed out, right? I mean, even if the Kings said, "Hey, we want to start a league," it would have to be an inline league, right? And they would probably partner. I mean, even worst case scenario is they work together. No?
Right. That's the way I see it. I think that first and foremost, the primary user and first priority will always be El Segundo Inline Hockey Association at the rink. Other sports programs do use the rink, like our box lacrosse program, which would be various age groups, including high school. But that is not a primary sport for that particular venue. So. With that being said, we'd have to really take a look at what the availability really is and what's reasonable and what we could accommodate. Yeah.
It feels like they're not worried about that. Is that an accurate statement? That they're here in support of this? Yes.
I think that they want to make that concern known as well, and be confident that the city will keep them as a priority.
Can you remind me of any existing policies related to signage and advertising on city property?
Sure.
I don't remember those.
Yeah, there aren't any. You'll probably remember a conversation we've had in previous years about signage at sports fields, and there is not an official city policy in regards to advertising or sponsorships. The way that we've done our event sponsorships, because we sometimes signage or advertising is incorporated in those packages. It's simply based on written agreement. And this particular agreement would be, like I said, drafted by our city attorney. So, but we keep in mind some basic concepts as far as what's appropriate or not appropriate. And but there's not an official policy at this point.
Can I chime in?
What
for a minute?
happened? Yeah.
Campus El Segundo, originally when that field was the first time the carpet was down there, that had a sponsorship in the center, right?
Yes.
So there was, this is not the first time this is happening here. So
No.
so we have had that happen, because
Right.
Campus El Segundo had that.
And that
So-
was under a naming rights agreement.
Right,
So again,
and-
a 9 or 10 page document that sort of outlined with that.
To me, this is similar to naming rights here, right?
It would be, yeah.
Yes, this is similar, not exactly the same.
So on that line of thinking, what happens when the various paint and items deteriorate? Does the city replace them, repair them? Do the Kings replace them, repair them? Is the agreement indefinite for the signage, or is there an end date to it?
I haven't gotten into that detail with the city attorney, but I think my sort of where I would draw experience from would be any sort of memory park bench or tree that's donated to the city, basically the rules are that if at any point the bench or the tree is in disrepair or in bad health and needs to be removed, that the city does not actually replenish that donation on city funds. So that would probably be similar. Meaning that if it faded, the city wouldn't be under obligation to re-decal something.
So if it's 8 or 10 years from now and it needs to be re-decaled, would the Kings have to pay more money to put the decals in, or do they get to just come back and replace it and have signage? And I'm asking these questions. I appreciate, I mean, I'm not trying to stop this from happening, don't get me wrong. We reached out to the Kings, and I'm well aware of that, so I want to make this happen. I just want to make sure that all these are,
Yeah.
so what happens 8, 10 years from now when, or is that?
That's a
Up
good
for
point. I
discussion.
think that we'll discuss it. Yeah, definitely. I don't know that we can make them pay more or make them come in and repair it, but we can definitely have that conversation about what happens when that happens.
Well, and more than likely, they're not going to want their logos to look faded, and, you know, they're going to want to keep them up, you know. So I would say that they're going to want to keep them looking nice. And the vinyl and that material has a certain lifetime to it. And, you know, whether they're going to be, whether somebody's going to damage them or something, I would think that the Kings are going to want to keep those looking nice. But if it's done by an outside source other than, you know, weather or something, I would think that's going to need to be in the contract or something. If it's done by, you know, if
Ducks
somebody
fans?
damages it, you know.
Yeah, I would say if it's something like a windscreen, when those rip and tear, we'll replace it. So something like that, you know, that's probably not an exorbitant amount of cost associated with it. It's still to be determined how these brands will be applied, whether they'll be sort of manufactured in the dasher board or a sticker on top of or painted. So that's still to be determined also.
And $75,000 is a very generous donation, and I want them to get something out of it.
Sure.
I mean, that's part of this, but I also want to be cognizant of the idea of, you know, when you name the Bank of America or Bank of California Stadium, it's a 10-year naming rights, and at some point that runs out. And I don't think $75,000 would be a in perpetuity naming rights of that rink. Mm-hmm. And if so, then that should be known up front and think about it. So
Sure.
I'm sure the city attorney's going to come up with some sort of time constraint on here, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's going to be part of, that's what I believe what we're here to do is let's see if this is a good thing here. And I think I would like to hear from inline hockey. So can I get a representative up, and please state your name and your affiliation, please.
Certainly. I am Tom Kale, K-E-H-L. I am the ambassador for the El Segundo Inline Hockey Association. That basically means that I've been involved with the league for 16 years now, in multiple roles, from coach to board member to president, and this is an opportunity for me to help Jeff, who is our current president. So speaking for El Segundo Inline Hockey, we are very excited, and I agree with you that $75,000 is a huge donation and goes a long way towards helping us improve the conditions of the rink. Very well needed. It's, as you said, it's an old rink now. We just had our 20-year celebration, so we're very excited about that. We've had partnerships with the Kings in the past, and those have been good for many years. We're currently not in any partnership with them, but they have sponsored us. They have helped us, either the Kings or AEG, that company. So yes, we are here in support of that. We do have some concerns, very similar to the issues that Julie brought up earlier. We want to make sure that we're following the the policies that have been set in place with prioritization over youth organizations, and this is all about the kids, right? And that's why we're all volunteers, and that's why we do this. And so as long as we're planning on continuing those policies and not changing those policies, I believe that we would be in favor of supporting this this relationship and getting improvements, much needed improvements to the rink. Does that address your questions, Mr. Moda?
It did.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead. Anybody?
I mean, we're still in the discussion.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can't imagine saying no to this. I think it's just about the couple things we brought up and letting staff work through those things, but I'm
Yeah,
fully in support.
It sounds like there's the Youth Sports Council and field allocation policies are going to continue and being used that way. And as long as that is going to continue that way and it's not going to change, I'm in favor. I do have a question for the engineer. Could you step up, please?
Hello.
Hi, thank you.
I'm Orlando Rodriguez, and I am here at Public Works with the City of El Segundo. I'm a senior engineer here.
Okay, the question I have is the moisture coming up, okay, it's got to be coming, well, that's your decision where it's coming from, but I believe it's coming from the hillside and underneath.
Right.
Do you feel that you'll be able to rectify that situation with this dollar figure?
I believe so, yes. In visiting the site and just kind of taking an overview of the condition of it, I noticed a couple things off the hillside on the south, I guess north side or south side of the rink. Sorry, there's gaps between the boards and the rink surface, along with some cracks and things of that nature. So I think that's the primary reason why the moisture kind of seeps in. It could be other things like I think it was previously mentioned, there could be a moisture coming from underneath up, but I think that with this dollar figure we could definitely address that issue, and essentially that is the number one issue that we want to address according to our conversations with the inline hockey rink. So I think we definitely can.
French drain at the bottom of the hill.
Yeah, we talked about, looked into that and other things, so we will visit all possible solutions for that issue.
Because that's not very expensive. If it could be a simple solution
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, could be some grading and things of that nature, so.
So this project, where do you see time frame? How long do you think to, I'm talking about not the branding portion, I don't.
Right.
What kind of time frame do you think for the project?
So the next phase, I think, of this project, I think once we enter into an agreement, we would then, or at least I would, put together some plans and specifications for this project, hopefully 2 to 3 month time frame, and then going out to bid, going through that whole process, and possibly maybe beginning either mid to late summer, hopefully construction. And I think we've discussed that with the hockey rink, and they've been very helpful as well. I'm not sure exactly how long it will take. It depends on what repairs we want to do and where our budget will take us, but that I'm looking at starting around that time frame.
Okay, thank you. So we have.
I'm gonna-
Go ahead.
I'm going to make a motion to accept the donation from the Kings with the various things we've talked about for staff to work out. It's my motion to accept.
Is there a second?
I second that motion.
Is there any more discussion? Does anyone want to hear from the Kings? He took his time to come on down here.
I think we should.
And if the motion,
Yeah, I was just going to, I mean, before we voted, I just wanted to
I
have
would
an
like to
opportunity to say
hear
thank
from
you.
him, so you can thank him in person.
Yeah.
So we can thank him in person. And thank you for coming tonight.
My pleasure. My name is Chris Crotty. I'm the Senior Director of Hockey Development for the Kings. I think we figured since we're donating to the pool, we should probably donate to the inline rink too. It makes more sense. you know, to address some of the concerns that you brought about, you know, a couple years ago we formed a high school league, and we worked with about 7 rinks in the area, ice rinks. And when we went out there were some people that were asking us, like, why aren't you getting the best ice times at rink? They're like, there are already existing groups within those rinks using those ice times. We're not going to come in there and push them out and create enemies. It's our goal to grow the game. So if there is opportunities for new programming within the rink, we'd love to be part of that. But you know, we'll work around the existing schedule. We have ideas. You know, that's what we do when we approach a rink with an idea. Like, hey, we've got this great idea. We want to run this time of the year. This is what we want to do. Can it work? They're our partners. My department is the outreach to the local hockey community. I'll tell you right now, like, we don't have the manpower to start running leagues. More importantly, I don't want to do it. So it's like that's, you know, their guys' expertise. So anything we do partners with them, of course. So that's kind of where we stand. And as far as the branding goes, just to kind of give you a look at what we've done in the past, is like we've changed our branding at the local rinks over the years. You know, we do partnerships, but like we've gotten to the point we want classy. You know, we've gotten to the point where we don't put anything there that's going to get destroyed quickly. We've actually started investing in donating exact replicas of the retired numbers at Staples Center that they can hang on the walls, these giant banners, versus stuff that gets torn up, something that's going to be able to sit there forever. So that's the kind of stuff we're looking for. Any questions?
Thank you very much for coming
Thank
down
you.
here tonight.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, on behalf of the city, thank you for the donation. Awesome.
Thank you.
So we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's 5-0. Thank you very much, all of you, for coming. Appreciate it. Okay. Now, this will go to city council, and you got more to go. Thank you. Okay, reports of subcommittees. Aquatic Subcommittee.
Subcommittee met last week. We discussed some of the proposals, most of the proposals, trying to put a game plan before commission, before council, to see exactly how to create a complete aquatics program for the new aquatic center. As everyone knows, it's just been opened. Hooray. Got that out of the way, and we're moving forward. So that's about it.
Okay, it looks like Golf Course Subcommittee. Alex?
We don't meet till early Feb, and I assume you guys discussed December's meeting. Yes.
Okay,
Nothing
thank
to
you.
report.
Youth Sports Council. You were there.
Yeah, you were representing Babe Ruth, so I was representing the commission.
Right. If you got it all.
Right. Yeah. We no, go ahead. I mean, we went through. I arrived late, but Sean went through the various allocations with the groups. Talked about the importance of emphasized some points with the various leagues with regard to field use, and how they treat staff members, particularly some of the coaches who feel that they can treat staff members inappropriately because they think it's their field. That was a big topic of conversation. And then another big topic was the policy with regard to closing down fields under rainy weather and how that works. And various phone numbers. It's basically solidified exactly how, so that everyone understands what number to call, how it works, who's available, names, very organized with regard to rainouts. Please add, because I was late to the meeting. What did I miss?
You got it. You
Got
covered
most
it all. Christopher was at the meeting also, and the best thing of the meeting was the wet field condition policy was clarified. We know what it is now. All presidents that were there heard it. It's in writing. It can't get better than that. So if the fields are closed, if they call in at 8 o'clock in the morning and it says that that's on the weekends, if the field's closed, they're closed all day. And if it's not just one field, it's going to be all fields. And did I miss anything, Christopher? Okay. So it was a really good meeting.
I have a question that, Dave, when you talked about the treatment of employees by some of the coaches, is that some of the coaches are mistreating, say, the youth that are running the fields, or what are you talking about that that are overseeing the fields? Are you talking about at campus, or what's happening?
Sean wasn't very specific about which fields it was happening on, nor the age of the employees. But it just sounded like he was getting reports from staff that when, for instance, a field is closed down and the coach comes out and says, no, this is fine to play on, they're basically saying, I know, name dropping and saying I can come out here and making it uncomfortable for the staff. So I don't know the details as far as the age or the specific locations. I assume it's campus somewhat. I don't know. Bob, do you know which?
I don't, but I believe what Sean was doing, and staff can correct me if I'm wrong, I think he was just getting it known, so the presidents know about it, or regional commissioners, that they know about it, and that they take care of it on their end. And I'm pretty sure that that's where he was trying to go with that conversation. So, and that's what I got out of it.
He didn't even mention which league. I think it's just a little bit everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And what he was trying to get was he wanted the presidents to know that it's staff's decision, it's not their decision. So I think we're good.
It was my first youth council meeting, and I thought it was excellent, and everyone was on the same page. It was great.
And we're moving to the Gateway Committee. You are the representative, aren't you, Julie?
There hasn't been a meeting yet.
Okay, that's all.
So
we
far,
need
so
to know.
good.
There we go. Thank you very much for your report. Okay. Is there anything that wants to be said about the Gateway Committee? Are we good? We got a meeting scheduled, or?
We do have a meeting scheduled next week, next Wednesday, 23rd.
Perfect.
And it'll be our kickoff meeting, and I'm expecting everybody to be there.
Yeah, so
Great.
Christopher, you sent out an email getting everybody jockeying for what date and all of that, but I haven't gotten the follow-up email as to where it's going to be and what time.
The agenda will be sent out, is it tomorrow?
Tomorrow. Okay. Okay.
And it will be at City Hall.
All right.
Thank you, and we'll have a report next month then. Department staff reports. Aricia, Recreation Superintendent.
I'm speaking for Ercia this evening, but you have her report in front of you. And one thing that we wanted to highlight on the recreation side was the unveiling of the new department logo and all of the work and effort that went into really the last year. Ercia and her team have been working on the mission, vision statement, and values of the department and of the division. And it sort of culminated with this new branding that was actually created in-house that we're quite proud of. A lot of input and feedback from various staff members, and we think it's really representative and fun and playful. And last Thursday, we had a good team of people out at the farmers market handing out T-shirts and stickers and a whole variety of giveaways. So we're really pleased to have a new logo in the department, and you will start seeing it on all of our flyers and press releases and various merchandising, staff uniforms, and things like that.
Seeing no questions, thank you for your report, Aricia. Christopher Henson, Parks Maintenance Superintendent.
Good evening, Commission. You have my report. I'll take any questions. Couple things I'll add is we're looking forward to the seasons starting up here real soon. We're working hard on the ball fields. Not so much this week. We're just trying to survive the rain. But and also I'd like to wish you all a Happy New Year's.
Okay, I just have, how are the trees holding up this week?
So far, so good.
Good, thank you. Okay, new tonight, Darnell Jenkins, El Segundo TV manager.
Acting cable, community cable.
Acting, sorry, acting.
Good evening, Commissioners. Darnell Jenkins, El Segundo TV. I'd like to say that I'm excited and honored to be here tonight. You have my report in front of you. I'm available to answer any questions on that. I will add two things. One, I'd like to personally, well, actually, I've actually, over 2.5 years, I've actually been at almost all of the Recreation and Commission meetings. However, I've been under your feet in the basement operating the remote control cameras, so it's actually good to come up for some air, you know. so it's nice to be in the room. Two things. Number one, I'd like to personally thank and congratulate Dan O'Toole on his retirement, and thank him for his leadership over the past 2 years. I have a feeling that he might be watching, so congratulations, Dan. And number two, I'd just like to kind of talk about some of our goals for the coming year, for 2019. So we go out and we cover a lot of the events that we have in town. And so one of the things we want to kind of focus on is doing more pre-event promotion to kind of build community awareness and community engagement. So to kind of drive the community to the events. So not only cover the event and then show the community, hey, here's what you missed. Kind of get them aware in advance to say, hey, this event is coming up. And one of the ways we're trying to do that is by doing more social media videos. We actually just created a El Segundo TV Instagram account. And so we're going to be making more short form videos, 30-second to 60-second videos, showing coverage of events that they may have missed, but also promoting upcoming events. So whether it's, you know, Star Party coming up, or, you know, the, you know, Aquatic Center grand opening, just in the weeks leading up to these events, kind of sort of sending out things to kind of create some excitement around these events to drive more people and, you know, parts of the community that may not be aware of, you know, some of the things that are going on in town, to get them aware of them and get them out and involved more in the community. So that's one of the things we're looking forward to in 2019, and I'm available to answer any questions if you have.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And welcome. All right, Department Director's Report. Meredith.
Yes, well, you have my report. I tried to incorporate a new style for you. I hope you like it, with some photos and more narrative versus bullet points. So I had fun writing it. This week we had 2 pre-bid meetings for 2 projects that are now under bid, which is the Holly Valley Playground and the Campus El Segundo shade structures. Those bids are due at the end of the month. So we're looking forward to seeing what comes of that, and what the budget's looking like when those bids are opened. Christopher attended both of those meetings, and I've seen the sign-in sheet, and we had a really, really great turnout for both of those projects. So looking forward to that. We talked about the logo already. The Aquatic Center, we're off and running. We haven't had to fill the pool at all this week, so we're good on the waterfront. The El Segundo High School and Wiseburn High School's programs are, I think they were slated to start practicing there yesterday. And we also have lap swim, limited lap swim open right now from 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. on weekdays at the new Aquatic Center. So anybody who's interested in lap swimming over there, they just need to go to either the plunge or over to the new center and speak to the staff and get their cards and hop in. So we're excited that that's off and running. And I think that's all I wanted to highlight this evening.
Seeing no questions, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will move to commissioner comments. Commissioner Stolnak.
I had sent you an email about not being able to make the workshop on the Acacia and Washington Park workshop, and then I saw some comments on Facebook that people were putting down about the park. It seemed to go pretty quickly, the workshop. Can you comment on how that went with the architects?
Sure. So I think it lasted about an hour. I think we spent a good amount of time. The first part, we had the architects had 3 concepts for Acacia Park and 2 concepts for Washington Park displayed on large display boards, and that gave the community members opportunity to walk around, take a look at them, and then everybody sat down. The architects really went through each of those concepts and described each of the features that were pictured there. And from there, we took verbal feedback, comments, and everybody also had the opportunity to write comments on a comment card that then was turned into the architects, and they compiled those comments. We also did dot voting, and where everybody who was there received some stickers, and they were able to walk up to the display board and put their dots on the various images or features that they felt were most important or liked the best. And the results of that came out to where actually swings is the #1 feature that everybody wants to see at the park, followed by a lot of still conversation about the pool at Acacia and the desire to keep the pool, at least among the neighbors there in that area. Most of the participants in all of the community meetings have really been concerned with Acacia Park and not a lot of feedback on Washington Park. And I think that that's because Acacia Park is in the state that it's in, and it has been under construction for a year and a half, and they're really looking forward to getting their park back. And I also think that, you know, with the improvements at Washington, hopefully we'll see more people actually go to Washington Park. So we're looking forward to that. But overall, we were really pleased with the turnout. It was the largest turnout that we had of all of the meetings. And we had a lot of kids in the audience too that were giving their feedback on what they'd like to see, and we're really pleased with the results. The next step is that the architects will be taking that feedback again, the dot voting results, and really coming up with a preliminary final design. So we're really trying to narrow it down to one option, and then take further feedback and do some tweaking if we need to. And those options, that concept will come to the commission in March.
I did have some elderly residents talk to me about Acacia Park. They wanted to go to the workshop that night, but they were not able to go. And they have some real concerns about Acacia Park, that if the pool is going to stay, which they were fine with, they have some real concerns about the restrooms staying, concerns for the children, that if the restrooms stay, that they really don't want the restrooms to stay because of safety concerns. And also looking at, you know, that the restrooms are just a safety concern if, you know, the homeless start camping out there, especially the status of the restrooms now and the way that they are. And I said, well, they wouldn't stay that way, but they're like, you know, the restrooms are just not a good thing.
Sure.
And they were like, we would rather just the restrooms be gone. So, and I have voiced concerns about the restrooms as well. So I just wanted that to be known, that they were like, we would rather just get rid of those restrooms in that park. And also they were asking about, is there going to be some type of a fence or something to where the kids can't run in the street?
Sure. Well, regarding the restrooms, we actually are required to have restrooms if there is a swimming pool there. So if there is a pool, there must be restrooms. If there is a splash pad, there must be restrooms. If there is not a pool or a splash pad, there doesn't need to be restrooms, although there are a lot of people who still want restrooms. And so I think that will be a part of the conversation when the design comes into the commission, is to talk about the restroom, because it's not inexpensive.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty expensive portion of the project, and the architects are recommending to whichever design we go with is to demolish the existing restrooms and put in some new restrooms. There's a lot of prefabricated type restroom buildings that are totally suitable for the location and the size, and easy to put in, because the location of the restroom was a big part of the conversation, as far as, well, the existing restrooms are definitely a place where kids can hide, or homeless people can hide, or anybody doing, you know, bad activities can hide. And there's a lot of concern with safety and security, and the fact that there's not a lot of lighting, or maybe no lighting at Acacia Park. So security and safety lighting would be part of the project as well. But the location of the restroom was a big topic, and they'll be working on what's that best location so that it doesn't create sort of that attractive nuisance kind of area. But yes, they would be required to have a restroom if
So
we have a pool.
do the regulations just require them to be open during when the pool is open?
Correct,
And
and that's
so they can be
right.
instead of being out to the park, they could be inside the pool and only be open when the pool's open, and then it's not as big a concern maybe.
That's possible. That's possible. We can definitely look into that. Right now, we only open the restrooms when the pool is open. But again, there are a lot of parents out there who want the restrooms to be open year round and want restrooms. Like I said, if there is no water feature requiring that, just because it's a feature that they feel that they get to the park and the kids got to go to the restroom and they have to leave. So it's not, I guess, typical of a neighborhood park. There's different sort of types of parks. This is considered a neighborhood park. None of our other neighborhood parks have restrooms other than Hilltop, but that's because of the pool. So it would definitely be a departure in sort of the system if we went with a restroom without a pool and operated that year round. So that's part of the discussion too.
Okay.
Julie, anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay. Thank you. Alex?
I just wanted to wish everybody Happy New Year. Welcome Darnell upstairs. And I'm looking forward to see what happens with the future of El Segundo Golf.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Lubes? Dave?
No comments. I'm good.
Okay, Vice Chairperson Davis. Lee?
Thank you very much. I did attend that Acacia Washington meeting. I thought the engineers did a really good job of being very creative and throwing some stuff out there. I was very interested to see that creativity wasn't exactly what a lot of the residents were looking for. I found it real interesting, and one of the dilemmas was with the restrooms. Of course, they sit right between the benches and the pool, so it is hard. But just the fact that there is no parking for that, so anything that we do develop that is a little unique or a little bit upscale will attract more people and more parking issues, and the residents are going to have a tough time with that because they've already experienced the negative side of parking in front of their driveways when they're trying to come home at 3, 4 in the afternoon during the summer and have that blocked in. I think that park represents a number of challenges, which is why we probably don't have a plan immediately available for it. And I don't think it's going to be a real easy solution, or maybe it is. We just keep it real simple. But I thought it was real interesting because I had some real ideas about it. And when I started finding out about restrooms, actual dollars, I thought the splash pad would be a great cost-saving device. It literally costs twice as much as a pool. So that kind of shot down any thoughts on that because, as we all know, the budget's not quite there. But it was very interesting, and I agree. I heard most all those comments in the meeting, and it was good. It was real good for me to see because I had some different ideas. But
Lee, do you have to staff a splash pad as well? Does that require staffing?
No, and that's
Or
why
is
I
it
like the
employee
monetary
free?
value is that you no longer have people necessarily collecting fees to come in or lifeguards to man it, and then that's kind of like a splash pad is the intro to swimming for a lot of infants and toddlers, and then that allows them to go from there and then work our way up through the plunge and you go to Hilltop for a small pool, then you have the plunge and then onto the aquatic center. So I thought that was a natural progression. But after hearing the dollars and the parking concerns, it's going to be real difficult to do something there. And I mean, I've looked at that pool and it needs a lot of work, a whole lot of work. One of the thoughts I had was you've got a lot of the residents don't like the pump station that sits right on the corner and is kind of an eyesore. But if you combine that with the machinery room for the pool and the restrooms, you've got to kind of tucked over in a structure and maybe do something like that. But again, if you're going to have the pool and you still maintain, a nice pool, you're going to get more parking. You're going to have the residents perhaps not as happy. I did hear a lot of the residents did want a pool, but they don't want a restroom, and you can't have one without the other. So there's a lot of dilemmas to be worked out in this, and it's not as simple. On the flip side of that, almost zero concern about Washington because I think it's functional, and currently it's not a bad park, but it could definitely be upgraded, and the focus was Acacia. But other than that, I thought staff did a real nice job, and it was good to see that for me. So, and other than that, Darnell, thank you very much. Glad to have you here. Glad to have you above board, right? And that's all I got.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Inline Hockey for coming to the meeting tonight and giving us some insight, and thanking the Kings also for being here. And with that, Happy New Year to everyone. And we'll go to public communications. Seeing none, we'll close public communications, and we will adjourn to the next regular meeting on Wednesday, February 20th, 2019 at 6 p.m. Thank you, everyone.